love it or hate it, the jig head minnow right now is one of the most dominant fishing techniques in bass fishing, but also one of the most sought to learn techniques with that as well. And that's what we're going to go into, is to help you out. If you're a beginning angler to the advanced, we're going to go onto the different types of weights of the jig heads. We're going to talk about the gear. Most importantly, where and how to fish it. It is not all about suspended bass, and that's where a lot of people mess up. They just think it's about chasing fish around bait, and that is a very dominant technique with it, but there are so many more ways to use this, guys. Welcome to the Fishing Coach YouTube channel. My name is Jimmy Easterling. I go by Coach E, so go ahead and call me Coach, guys. Glad to have you on today. I've been fishing the minnow hard for 2 years. I've been doing it for 3. My first year, which was 3 years ago, I would catch fish with it. I would do it. I just didn't have the confidence with it, but the last 2, it's been one of the most sought out techniques. I do my on the water lessons, forward facing sonar lessons, offshore lessons, and guys, last year I forgot how I did at the top of my head, over 120 trips, and last year, and on those 120 trips, 118 of them were with this. Okay, I mean, like I said, this was it. So I have a lot of experience with it, teaching people, and to kind of help you guys out as well. But like I said earlier, it's not all about the suspended bass. But first, let's talk about the different jig head weights. We're gonna go jig head weights. We're gonna talk about the gear, different types of minnows. I have it all right here, guys. I'm right now on beautiful Lake Washita. It is, as you see, it's raining right now. It's kind of lightly raining, and it's cold out here. I've been catching fish on today. I'm trying to find some new fish for some of my guide trips. But guys, here, look, I got a box. I got a box full of jig heads, different variety of jig heads. I don't know if y'all can see it all. Okay, I have a lot of different jig heads. In here I have 1/8, 3/16, quarter, 3/8, half, 5/8, got 16ths. I have my hover rigs in here. I have the bigger hover rig hooks. I have a lot here, guys. One thing I want to say about this before we get into the weights of the heads is this is like a jig. Meaning, and I say meaning like a jig, and you're like, what do you mean it's like a jig? Guys, there's a football jig, there's a structure jig, there's a swim jig, there's a finesse jig, flipping jig. There's so many different types of jigs and techniques amongst the jig. And we're about to go into how this right here, there's so many different ways and techniques to go with it as well. A more beginning angler, I don't want you to overwhelm with the jig head weights. If you're more beginning angler, I say a quarter or a 3/16, one of those two, a 3/8, and then depending on your lakes you fish, a half. For me, at like Lake Washita, I have it's a deep highland reservoir. The half is really needed for them deeper fish. That could be on your rock points, or they can be out even swimming, because it's that half or head gets to them faster. But depending where you're at, if you're fishing more of a shallower lake that's 20, 25 foot, you don't need a half, okay? But that half can get to them quicker, like this time of year where there's no thermocline. So, but for me, when I was starting, that's what I kind of did. I have 3 spinning rods on the deck. I have 4 right now today. My 4 today, I have a quarter, a 3/16, a half, and a 3/8. I got all 4 rocking and rolling. Now, there are days where you're going to want to not just get the jig head weight figured out that they might want, but also the color of the minnow, the style. There's also, different deals there. When they're really eating, I don't think the minnow matters as much. I mean, it can, but when you see the top level pros fishing tournaments, they all have different ones and they're catching fish. I really think it comes down to the tackle and the jig head size. So that's one thing there. Last year on our on-water lessons, when we had the double digit, the 12-6 got caught on a quarter head. I caught mine on a quarter also. I actually caught my 11 on a quarter. But most of mine right now are in a half, just because they're in that 40-foot deeper zone. But that 0 to 20-foot zone, guys, that's where the 3/16, the quarter, a 3/8 to the well, like I know that 20 to 30-foot zone, you kind of might want to go to that 3/8. But then you're also going to have to read how the fish are swimming that day. If they're swimming real fast, or if they're being more, if you're fishing more on cover. Like I've even lately on fishing 40 foot, I've gone a quarter or 3/16 on some fish because they're stationary. If they're down there stationed, I'll throw that thing, let it get down there, because that lighter head stays in front of it a little bit more. When you have that lighter jig head, okay, here's just the mooch minnow, okay? Here's just the mooch minnow, for example. I have 4 different ones up here. I have a prototype jig head too, but I have actually a mooch minnow, Sakamata shad, a baby Z2, and then a wing fluke. So But guys, when you have like this mooch minnow, when you have that lighter head, it's going to be more of a strolling. It's going to be more, I mean, you're shaking it, it's there, but it's going to be more that strolling kind of you're doing there. But when you go like to that half, it's more of what they call the Demiki rig fishing. Moping is what I've been more doing, which is Jeff Gustafson, who's been doing it forever, 15 years or 20 years or so. But when I'm at half, I'm going more down there and you're shaking it, and it's still rocking, but it's more of a different technique. There's times I'm putting that thing on their heads and shaking, checking, trying to get them to come up and eat it. But when you're lighter head, you're doing more of that strolling type of action. Now, so just if you're the beginner, like I said, have 3 different types of jig heads depending on your lake. Now, the rod and reel is very important. I'm trying to study this more and more. I got told the medium light was very huge, and I've had success with medium light. I'm using a level 7.1 medium light. This one here is a 610 light, okay? So guys, on the rod length, it's going to be kind of from your preference of fishing, but like I say a 7 foot, like the 7.1, this level, like I said, this is the level NGX that I'm throwing, 7.1 medium light, okay? Now, one thing we're gonna talk about later, these bigger ones, I'm kind of curious on the rod. I think I need more of a rod with the backbone with these bigger ones, but I'm still playing and kind of learning with them. But that's one thing we're gonna talk about a little bit later. So guys, now let's go ahead and talk about now minnow types. Look, I got 3 bags. 1, 2, 3. I got a bag of small minnows that are like 2 to 4 inches. I got a bag of 5 and 6 inch minnows, and I got a bag of 7 and 8s. Okay, where I'm at, the 7 and 8s are still kind of I'm playing with, learning on. We'll talk about that another day. Okay, there's gonna be a time and place for it. But my lakes, and each lake's different. Okay, there are lakes where they love this baby Z2. Right here, love it. Lake Ouachita, they love it. Okay, now we also have some lakes, and if you watch enough of my videos, you know they love the freeloader. Okay, they love the freeloader. So. And there's a couple other ones we'll throw. Like I got drift fries on the floor. Like I said, I know guys, we've talked about Sakamata shad. It's a popular one, and mooch minnows now kind of coming out, whatever. And there's a bunch. But guys, I think it's more, you know, on colors. Like I know for like me on my deep clear lakes, white right now is a promising color, more of a shad based color. But when you get to the post spawn through summer, it's more shad patterns like that. You know, there's a few different shad patterns in the freeloaders, a few different shad patterns, a smoky shad in the baby Z2. So the one thing I've kind of realized though is like small and big. The small's more finessey, but if you're around your bait fish in your area, it's always kind of good. You always hear like kind of getting around the size of bait. So that's a very crucial thing. If there's bait in your area, and there's like I said, there's bait in your area, it's always kind of good to kind of match that hatch. But let's say there's no bait in your area. That's where those bigger ones, the 5 and 6s, kind of even come in play at times. You might find some fish that want that big one because it's their one course of that 4 hours, you know, that they get to see, or they don't have, you know, like they might be feeding more on the brim and crawfish as these lakes. So that's one thing I've learned with the bigger ones is it's been better for me if there's not much bait activity around. Now I know if you're around a bunch of gizzard shads down there in Texas like my dudes are, I got gizzard shads in my lake, but they're like you see a Ben Milliken video. I'm surprised he hadn't thrown these things yet, because he's thrown them glide baits, but that right there is just as promising as a glide bait. So that's one thing on the baits, guys. Like I said, I'm gonna put all this stuff down in the description, all this stuff down there, so if any more questions on it, there you go. Now, okay, on the areas, the number one kind of deal with it that all you hear about and people get mad about is the whole fish suspended on bait. And I always, when I do my on the water lessons, I always love to try to find that happening, just because I think it's easy to teach, it's good to see. But guys, what I've also learned is you can fish this thing in cover, structure with cover. Okay, structures, your points, humps. You know, on my lakes, I got grass on this lakes, brush piles. So there are also that. You have rock. Okay, my guys on the TVA that have a lot of shell beds, they're fishing them on shells. But guys, that's where a lot of people are missing out right now. For me, for example, on my lakes, it's been winter. These fish are on deep main lake points. There are times we don't see them. If you've been on the lesson, you've learned it. It's been awesome. Okay, because like even the other day, we found them deep off a point. We might see 1 or 2, drop it down, then there's 20 of them. They're just down there. These are old jig fish that I used to catch with a football jig, okay? And now we're being able to target them with this just because it's new, okay? Like I said, it's new to them, it's new to us, it's very, very high percentage bait, okay? So that's one thing. And then the grass, you know, that's one thing with the bigger ones I've been trying to play with, is throwing them and going for fish in grass, okay? They've already seen the jerk bait. They've seen the Alabama rig and a jig, and they'll still work, by the way. They do still work. They catch fish. I mean, and this thing right here still catches fish too, okay? So, but that's why I'm trying to throw that in there, and that's where I think a lot of people are missing out, okay? So some of your places you have gone and caught fish before with a jig, jerk bait, all those, you can still go out and catch them with these types of baits, okay? Now guys, we're gonna get on the water. It's raining. I'm gonna kind of get my chest footage on, maybe get that going as well, and try to do a little on the water talking. There we go. We see one right there coming on the bottom. Let's see if I can make a good cast on him. Did not make a good cast. So if you don't make a good cast, reel in real quick. My hands are cold right now. I've not casted good today. when you're fishing 4 different boats throughout the week. Now, one thing, guys, about the shake, you know, one thing is there's always a few different types of shakes. See if this guy sees it. But you always want to kind of play that cat and mouse. He does see it. Look at this. Come on, come get it. Oh, come get it. Got him up there. Wow. I always like when it's like that. It always doesn't work like that, guys. Oh, it's not the right species. Not the right species. Yellow bass. Yellow bass. I've been, guys, in 4 different boats this week on my lessons. And dude, it's taking me a minute to get back used to my graph. I mean, I've done an active target 2. I did it. Let me hit the pause back here. I've done an active target 2. I've done a 32, 34, but they all been on different strings, man. Today I've been bad on like recognizing the fish, just because I've not been in my boat in 2 weeks, and I didn't have one of these. But that right there is a fish that's just off this point on the bottom. And one thing I'll say about yellow bass is, when you're around yellow bass, you're typically around some big largemouth too, or some good largemouth. For me, I'm a lakes. But one thing, like how that fish ate, it always don't work that way. But one thing about the shake, I'll say first, guys, is the reel handle. Okay, I know a lot of guys will fish on the left, and they have. And if you've done crappie fishing and you're comfortable, that's good. But if you fish a jerk bait and you're jerking and it's this way, then you might need, and if you have your spinning rod on the left side, you might need to have this thing on it, because I've had a lot of people that struggle with the shake, and that's part of the reason why is because they can't shake it as well or fluently with the rhythm. So that's just one thing there. One thing, guys, on casting, it will take time and practice. And that fish looks a little bigger. It takes a lot of time and practice. And let's see here if we can get this thing to see this dude. So we're there. We're just going to start shaking it. Now, this 34 cone, I know. Come on, dude. Nope. You going to do it? He did not. He did not. So, either he didn't see it, not a bass, or he's already ate a few times. And he's like, I ain't doing that again. He's already been hooked. And he's like, how dare you put that thing back in front of me. So, now that's one thing you saw there. Like I didn't catch that fish. I don't get discouraged. Like, I don't get discouraged. I get more discouraged when I lose fish, because I want to know exactly what they are. Now there we go. We're seeing some out there in the distance. Don't be a striper. I didn't throw good. But I'm doing this to show you guys, like, hey, if I didn't get a good cast, like that's one thing I know a lot of people struggle with too, is that I really don't think those are the right ones. How they're all, watch me, I can't say that, dude. How these fish have been acting. Oh, here we go. You gonna get it or not? Yeah. I'm about to say crappie. Nope. Now he's acting like a whiter. Good. Well, at least my confidence was right. I knew that wasn't the one, but guys, what I just did there was one way you get better with this is when you're throwing at those, you start learning what they are and not. Like I told you, I didn't really feel like those were bass from the get-go. So let me hit the record. And so you do start kind of getting familiar. I know some guys that will throw at every fish, and they throw at every fish to learn. Okay, to learn, like, hey, what they are exactly. And the other day I caught more drum. I actually caught a good drum earlier, but we caught some drum the other day, but they were on the bottom and we never saw them. They would just come up off the bottom and eat this thing. But like right now, we're not seeing many suspenders. Those are some random suspenders, and I just threw just to kind of throw. You know, y'all are watching this and just saw me catch 2 fish, and you're like, man, and it's not always this way. I mean, it is, but there's times it is, but there's a lot of times it's not. Okay. Not seeing much here right now. Like I said, I'm here, you know, but on that shake, okay, like I said, there are a few different shakes. You're seeing, I'm shaking it right now vertically with this heavier head. I shake this a 1/2 ounce head. I'll shake it more vertically. Those lighter heads, I'll start shaking sideways. And you might have seen some videos of me, and or you might see those other anglers do this. There's a times where a shake sideways, okay, is going to be more successful than the up, and that's just some days with it. And that sideways kind of gives that thing that hover, strolling action at times. There's a little ditch there. Oop. Some fish down there on the bottom. Down there really deep. I'm not going to throw at you right now. Those are probably yellow bass too. Oh, it'd be cool if we could just throw up here. Now, one thing though, guys, I don't see anything right now on this point. This is a secondary point. Oop, 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 oop. Was that some? It looked like a little better fish. There's still those on that. But there have been times though, guys, where like we will throw on points like that, not see a fish and work it, and they just show up. And that's the whole fishing structure cover deal, okay, that I was talking about earlier. I'm just going to kind of go through here. Not much more. I don't need to spend much time. I need to go find some fish, try to get another video. Get up. Turn around, fish. He's going the other way. Hope he sees it now, though. He sees it now. See, I'm not even seeing my lure. I just know I'm watching the fish, and I'm working it, working it, working it. Come get it. He ain't gonna eat it. He ain't gonna eat it. You're not gonna eat it. He's right there under it. You sorry largemouth. Now, guys, there though, one thing I did there comes from a lot of fishing and practice. I was watching that fish. I didn't see my lure, but I was watching that fish because he was turned around. I was reading that fish. He was turned around. Then he just felt the presence of something in the water, and he kind of turned, and I saw him go after it. Yeah, I bet you that's what it is. This dang mooch minnow is, I'm just gonna fire you. I'm firing that mooch minnow. Fired that mooch minnow. I caught a striper earlier on, and it was kind of like just not sitting right on. I kept moving it back, but guys, you got to really look at these things at times and pay attention to them. I mean, that hook's even bent back from that striper, but if these things are not turned right on there, if they're not sitting on it right, they do them fish at times, man. If they're not eating right, like, and they're like, you know, they notice that stuff. So now, one thing I will say, I didn't talk earlier, I like using a loop knot. You see it right there, I like using the loop knot. I put that on a video, another video before, if you see, just leave me a comment down there if you want to like see that in a video again. But or if you do, but I like the loop knot. I know Palomar knot works well. Some guys like the loop, some don't. And I became a fan of it for a couple reasons. But that's what I share on my trips there. Let's see. There's some dudes out there. I know I cannot. It's starting to be a little more rainy. Oh. Now, guys, I will say, let's see what this fish does. He stopped. One thing I will say, we saw this fish right here. You see the guys on the BPT, and they're throwing a lot of suspended fish, or like you see how they're rolling, like they're going to use that. Hey guys, here we go. We got a little fish right here. Let's see. He's turning, so there's my lure. So he's going to the right. One, guys, I'll say, when you're watching the guys on the BPT, or even the elites, you know, at times, they're, like the BPT especially, they're going to use that little period, and they might look for more of the suspenders, like in this pre-spawn period, as we just saw, okay? Man, that fish is sitting just still. I just don't think that's, I don't think that's a bass. Like, I just don't. He's just there, you know, he's just hanging out, kumbayaing. And he's really right there right now. He's to the right. So those guys are using the trolling motor up real high. They're, you know, like I said, they're gonna take that one period and throw it more suspenders, okay? And they're just gonna use that time, and that's just gonna be their deal of just, you know, being accurate, knowing what they're throwing at. Like this guy here is just hanging out. Oh, you're gonna do it now? Oh, you're gonna do it now. Oh, he just didn't eat it good. How about that? Huh. He just didn't eat it good. Okay. I saw those on the bottom down there too. That's why I really wanted to drop it on. He came from them. I really don't think, like, just how that dude's just sitting there. Bass ain't just gonna typically sit. Now, I know at times that they can, you know, but they typically move around and swim. That kind of thinks of me of a crappie right there, but why would there be one loner crappie out here? I'm not a dang biologist by any means, but anyway, guys, ooh. You gonna do it or not? Oh yeah, there we go. Made a little move. Big old largemouth. Good old Ouachita largemouth. Get in here. Get in here. Made a little move. There we go, guys. Boom. Boom, boom. I better get off the carpet. Somebody's gonna be mad. Somebody's gonna be mad that head on the carpet. I don't really, it's cold outside. Ain't gonna hurt their ordeal. 2 3/4 3-pound largemouth. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Faith Juice part of today's video. Got some scripture here I'm going to share, and once again, I appreciate all the positive feedback that I get on this part of my videos. Like my last video, man, a lot of positive feedback, and it seems like I get a lot of positive comments, and I just want to say thank you, guys. And I kind of, you know, with the analytics of YouTube, I get to watch and see how many people actually watch these. And of course, it's not as high as it is at the beginning of the video. It's just how it goes. I mean, more people watch the beginning, they drift off or click to another video. But guys that are watching this, man, appreciate it. No, I'm trying to go out there, and if it just touches one person, it means a lot. So on this one, we're in James. I love the book of James. I love this. It's a letter that James wrote, and it's a lot about being a doer, not just a hearer. Or not just a listener, but actually good and being like actually doing what the word says. But one thing here on James 3 talks about the tongue, our tongue, how it can be a problem, and we know that it can be a problem. And you always hear about trying to think before you speak, and sometimes us as humans, we have a problem with that. And it could be just little things sometimes, or it could be something that could be set a forest on fire, as it says right here. In James 3, it says, 3, the middle of 5. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire, and the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. And guys, kind of hearing that, like, where you're at, okay, I know for me, I work by myself now. I do talk to people in fishing. I get people in the boats, and I'm going to be back in the school soon with FCA. But I really work by myself. But when I was a school teacher, football coach, I was in a building with a lot of people, and there was adults, there were kids, and I got to see how the tongue speaking before you think, or saying stuff that's just, you know, out there, rumors. It just kind of would set this fire amongst schools. And depending where you're at with work, or it could be your family, let's really work on thinking before we speak, because that fire can get going. Okay, time out. We're gonna pull the mic. I got Sis here pulling the mic. I got the kiddos right now. Got the kiddos. We got the book out. We're trying to read James. James ain't really. He's listening, but he's kind of not right now. But we're trying. And then I got Annie right here. So anyway, guys. So once again, James 3. Go check it out. James is an easy book to read. If you're like right now, like, hey, what should I go read, or what's something? Go read James. It's a lot of like in your face, up front, easy to read and understand. As there's a lot of books, and there's a lot of spots in the Bible that are hard to read and understand, but James is something I always thought, like, hey, this is easy to read. And every time you read it, it's like, oh wow, this is some legit stuff right here. This is some good things. Okay, so guys, appreciate you. Let me know what you think about the video, and we will see you on the next one.